one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I'll declare the meeting in order. I'll ask Alicia to call the roll. She's filling in for Dina Malone.
Burns.
Here.
Bradley. Hastings.
Here.
Lynch.
Here.
Pistol.
Here.
Ward.
Here. This time I'll ask you to look over the approval agenda. If you like the way it's presented, I'll entertain a motion second to approve it as presented.
Make a motion to approve it.
Motion, second, any other discussion? Ask for a roll call.
Barnes.
Yes.
Hastings.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Pistol.
Yeah.
Ward.
Yes.
This time I'll have you look at the minutes from the 12th and the 30th as presented, and also the monthly financials. I'll entertain a motion second to approve that.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion on that? I'll ask for a roll call.
Barnes.
Yes.
Hastings.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Pistol.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Brings us down to a department head report. Start out with Airport Commission, Alex Kinlan.
Mr. Mayor, I really have no updates since our last meeting.
I did. Well, I talked. Yeah, thanks for coming up and saying that, but I wasn't gonna.
Yeah, sure.
No, I hadn't heard from. I hadn't talked to Dan Clinton, and nothing's come up. So no news is good news.
Exactly. As far as I know, everything's under control.
Okay.
So, any
Any questions for Alex? Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us to animal control. We'll start with Tim Pike.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The city, I took 11 calls last month, picked up 5 dogs and 3 cats. Their shelter's full every time I get a call. I don't know what our solution needs to be, but Lori is just covered up.
Right. I went up the other day, and you can fill in when you get up on your report, and it looked pretty full. So, and I'll just wait my questions for you here in just a second. But anything for?
And sorry I've not been coming. I talked to the mayor and he said as long as I sent in a report that would be fine with him. It cost me 35 minutes each way on comp time, and sheriff don't really like paying or me getting a bunch of comp time, so
Right.
if y'all need me to come, I will. If not, I
Just
can
go ahead and come
send a
until
report.
further notice, yeah. Any questions for Officer Pike? Thank you. Brings us to Animal Shelter, Lori Treat.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As of right now, we have 51 dogs at the shelter, 11 cats. We have 2 dogs that are still being held in Leslie because we don't have room for them down here. And we have 4 dogs in foster care
Okay.
around the county.
Those new kennels you got out there, that shed out there, if we revamp that, I was out there measuring, I think your cages are 4'8" by 9'8". The ones you ordered, we got at Tractor Supply.
You know, they're 5 by 10s.
Right, but I was just looking at the actual, they would actually fit in under that building if we got some more like that. Could you put like
Absolutely.
2, then have you could have like a 4-foot alleyway and then 2 more, and then a 4-foot, I think you can get, I don't know how many cages you can get there. I guess.
Those kennels are $359.
Right. But I mean, do you have them all assembled where they're going?
No.
Okay.
I've got some left up there. I think I've got 3 left to be assembled inside.
Okay, my question was, were you considering ever using that outdoor facility that we had sloped but you'd have to enclose it kind of, wouldn't you?
You really would have to do something with it. At the very minimum, get a hydrant out there.
Right.
Because the only hydrant we have outside is in the front of the shelter, up by where the dumpster is.
Okay, that was one of my questions. We don't have any source of water right there close?
No.
Okay.
We have 12 dogs that are going to Massachusetts on the 14th. you know, we have our issues, we always have issues out there. We had a massive sewer issue, I'm sure everybody's heard that, I don't wanna talk about it. Just say we were hip deep that day, I don't wanna talk about it. The air conditioner's quit again. County's aware of it. It quit last week. We were supposed to have our first spay and neuter clinic last Saturday. We postponed it because it was gonna be too warm in the afternoon for the dogs to be in the recovery area, because the recovery area does not have an external window. So we postponed it until Tuesday. We had our first public spay and neuter clinic on Tuesday. We spayed three female dogs and one male dog. And like Tim told you, animal control this month brought us 5 dogs and 3 cats.
Did you not get a new air conditioner last year?
No, sir. They brought out Bates Mechanical, Bates put free on it and said, good luck. But they finally convinced the county that the old condenser is dead. And that Judge James says that they have another condenser for it, and it was supposed to have been put in a week ago tomorrow, on the Friday, but it didn't get put in, so I don't know what the hold is, but.
The air, I assume it's heat and air, right?
No.
Okay.
The back unit is heat and air combination, but the front is just an air, the air conditioner that sits outside, and the heater actually sits in the attic upstairs. So,
My point being is, if we get to fall like we're getting there, are you okay for the heating of it?
we did get an upgraded heater last year, so.
I guess that's what I.
So, but that was a used heater, it was used, they got it from the Department of Health got a new one, and we got their old one, so.
So the heat to the winter is so far so good.
So far, so good,
Okay.
But you've got to understand that heater that we got was also, almost 10 years old. So.
Okay. That was the questions I had, and then that outdoor facility, you just have to put walls on it in a way to heat it, and you need some water.
Yeah.
I'd leave the spaces in there because you can walk, obviously clean it out quick and
Yeah,
easy.
absolutely.
Okay. Anything else for Lori? Any questions?
Questions, suggestions?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us to Fire Department report. Chief Webb.
This last month, we had a call for the Jaws for a 2-car accident up there on 16 East and 65 at the light. Had a call for gas smell over at 16 East around XTO. Wasn't nothing that we could find. We're working on a crisis plan for the school, with the school, to cover everything that might come up with the school. That would involve the city also. Scarrow Square is coming up October 31st. That's Thursday night. That'll be the only night we have the haunted house. Everything will be downtown on that night only. Try to shut town down as close to 5 o'clock as we can, and I'm assuming it'll probably be done around 9:30ish, 10 o'clock, so kids can go to school the next day and give us time to clean up downtown. We had Survival Flight come to our last fire meeting to discuss what their plans are and what their prices are, and so if anybody has any questions about that here in a minute, I'll be glad to answer what I know about it. But a lot of it will probably depend on the budget when we get into budget time, of what we can do as a city and what we can't do, because we've been paying for air evac in the past, so now you've got to have 2, basically. Had a fire call over here on 16 East, and I want to kind of explain this one a little bit. It's over here behind the CJ's old building. We got a phone call at City Hall. Alicia called me. A citizen called in that there was a fire. And I appreciate all citizens calling in, and anytime they feel like there's something that's going on that we need to know about, I'll welcome that. Got over there, they were tearing down the building behind CJ's old building. A lot of people didn't even know it was there because it had grown up. But anyway, they were tearing it down. They put it into 2 big piles. They already lit one pile. When I got there, the pile was about 20 foot tall, I'd say, and it was pretty much engulfed. I had the person running the backhoe pull as much of the unburnt wood that was there out of it because, and I'll get to that in a second, and told them that they could not burn anymore. I did not put any water on this fire because it was already smoking bad. It did have a noxious smell to it, but by putting water on it would have made it 10 times worse. So they let it burn out, but the rest of it was pushed aside and was hauled off. It is illegal in the state of Arkansas, not just the city of Clinton, to burn anything other than yard waste. You can burn grass clippings, limbs, anything that's waste out of your yard. But as far as burning trash, if you have a trash barrel, burn barrel, everybody thinks a burn barrel is okay. It is not. AEDQ frowns on it, they do not want it. Van Buren County is supposed to be one of the worst for people to burn trash. The thing is we're not manned enough, and AEDQ's not manned enough to be able to come up and catch everybody that's burning in a burn barrel or burning trash out in their yard. But if it is reported to AEDQ, they will come and they will look at it, and that is up to a $10,000 fine. So I believe I've gone through this before, but I just want to reiterate that to everybody and let everybody know. Now, going back to the citizen that called the fire in, again, I appreciate citizens calling in any time, no problem. But the one that called in to Alicia, I believe Alicia took the phone call, cursed her out, saying they wanted this fire out. I mean, it was, from what she told me, it was very severe, the way they cursed her out. I would encourage citizens that want to help this town, be couth, have a little couth. Try to be helpful, but don't be just mean about it. If somebody wants to curse somebody, wait till I get there. They do me that way. But I do not appreciate Alicia being cursed out for something because a citizen just felt like they had to curse somebody out. So like I said, if everybody just work together and not try to be mean about anything, I think we'll get a lot more done. The only other thing I've got is, and this is basically for Alex in the newspaper, and Warren's here too, but the cold weather is coming in. Please, everybody check your heaters, clean your flues and your fireplaces, because it is that time of year. We've had warm weather, we're fixing to get a cold snap, everybody's gonna start turning their heat on. Please check it out before your house burns. Other than that, if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you. Anything else for Chief Webb? Any questions? Appreciate it. Brings us to Parks and Rec, Charles Wilson. Thanks, Lori. Tim?
I don't have much. The grass is slowing down. The guys starting to get caught up. We're going to start kind of going through and picking up rocks there at the park to make it a little easier to mow. And other than that, anybody's got any questions?
I think you're to the last mowing of the year, I hope. Okay, anything for Charles?
Richard?
Yes.
Okay. We talked about, last month on the camping thing, the primitive camping.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a couple of calls on that. Are we gonna go back and kind of talk about maybe some procedures or some other things in dealing with that? Because a couple of people I talked to brought up some very good points that we didn't think about that night. And I think probably we need to maybe put that on bring that up again maybe next month, Charles, and throw around
We
some
can just do away with it.
different ideas or something.
We'll just bring it up. One thing, and I was going to bring it in, but I'll go ahead and do it now. I was going to do it in the streets, but I'll just do it right now. One thing is, I want to meet with our Parks and Rec, that commission that we had an ordinance, we already had one, so we did the advisory. I want to meet before the next meeting about that and talk about that. Several things on that. One was that, and topics I want to discuss was that primitive camping, the tennis court, where we're at on that. Gayla had brought that up, and I was going to mention that. We actually got an estimate on that. It's not as severe as we thought. We got it down to around 4,400, not counting the lights, and we're not sure exactly if we might even go down on the wire. That was just for the lighting. That's the other topic I want to talk about next month on that. Those two things. So I should have mentioned, I was gonna mention our streets, but it
And I'll
really
send
belongs in the
something.
parks.
I'll send the concerns and stuff, you know,
Yes,
to Richard, so you all can discuss it. I still think it's a good idea, but I think there's a couple of things that probably, that committee and stuff, y'all need to discuss.
Right, and
see
I was
how-
gonna get with our two, Jason and Sean tonight, and then see when the other five, when it's good for them to meet. I saw Tim Clark yesterday, and he's, whenever we wanna meet, let's meet on. Those are the main topics I wanna talk about. But yeah, and I talked to Chad about that, just looking all the ins and outs of it. Anything else for Charles? Okay, thank you. Brings us to police report, Chief John Willoughby.
Well, we had a pretty good, pretty busy month. We had, around 140 calls for service and, had 27 agency assists, that's including Medic One, State Police, Sheriff's Office. Had a bunch of alarm calls, we had about 20 of them. It's just, I guess some of the weather just kind of set some of them off or something, so. But we've had a bunch of alarm calls. We got 88 citations, 55 warnings. Let's see here. We had 27 felony cases that we filed and 4 misdemeanor warrants filed, so. But other than that, we had a pretty busy month, and had one of the trucks had a module and a windshield wiper motor and stuff like that went down on it. It cost about $1,000 to fix that. So I'm kind of depleted on maintenance and repair for this year. That kind of thrown me for a loop this year on the maintenance and everything. But other than that, guys, it's been pretty busy. And if we go back to, I've got some feedback on the camping thing over there in the park. You know, the only thing that I've had or anybody said that about drug use over there in the park, you know, and it's going to be a lot more drug use or whatever. But whether they're camping over there or whether or not, we've had drug use over there from the get-go. We've busted several people over there, and there wasn't even camping. So, I mean, that's not going to be a big issue. I mean, we'll be on top of that. And I don't know. That was my only complaint that came to me was more drug use or something going on over there. But if you take control of that from the get-go, you're not going to have that.
They've always camped over there. They've always camped over there.
It'd be nice to know who's camping.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
nice to
and now
know who it
then
is
we'll
this
know
time.
who's camping,
Yeah.
and we can kick that in the butt before it gets started.
You see your armband.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else for the chief or any comments on that? Okay, thank you. Brings us back to Charles Wilson with the street department report.
We got all the bids in, they look pretty good on our paving. Got to sit down and figure out who we want to get to do that. We've just about got caught up, my tractor's down. I'm gonna have to take it to either Mountain View or Conway. Computer's out of it or something, they're not 100% sure, so. Might as well get ready for that bill.
We got budget coming up, so we can,
Could be something as simple as just a.
That's what we want.
Switch or whatever, but anyway, they won't give me any information on it. They're like, you have to bring it to us and we'll fix it and come get it, so. I worked out the deal, it's gonna cost us about $400 to get it up there and $400 to get it back. So I'm fixing to send it off next week.
have you decided where you're taking it yet?
Not yet, I'm gonna let the driver decide.
Okay,
I mean, if it'll be the same price, take it to Mountain View, we'll take it to Mountain View, or whichever route they wanna drive. I
Right.
mean, that's a big old tractor, a lot of weight, so
right.
we'll let them decide, and then, whatever it's gonna cost to fix it. I've got enough in my budget, I believe, to take care of it for equipment.
Appreciate the work on Pine Street. We got one end of that ditch and,
So,
think that.
and then we'll had a complaint on memory lane, I'll go check it out, try to get it checked out tomorrow.
You got rid of that tree over there by the fire hydrant.
Yeah.
I thought Shelby over chopping that up, so.
Chopped it up. I didn't know it fell.
I'd had a couple of calls on that.
Yeah, there was a limb fell off and we cut it and then I guess the rest of the tree decided to fall. So I cut it up.
I cut on as far as I could until the whole thing fell, then I got out of there. No, but yeah, I appreciate y'all getting that.
And as soon as we get our tractors back, we've kinda got a lot of stuff done, a lot of stuff catching up on mowing and weed eating. I'm ready for the cold weather.
Yeah.
Starting mowing grass.
Yeah.
I know the guys are.
Grass been thick everywhere. It's a lot of hay this year, lots
We
of it.
welcomed a few cool days here. I've kinda backed off of them a little bit and let them relax and catch up and get a few little piddly things done. And we're gonna start winterizing stuff, so.
Be here before you know it.
Yes, it'll be upon us before we blink our eyes. So we gotta winterize water fountains and all that stuff, so when you, here in the next week or two, when you go get a drink and the fountain don't work, it's because it's been winterized. And if we don't, it costs us $360, so I'll winterize them to save that money.
Winterize it, be better. Cool. I had the tractor and you mentioned that and the bids in, they look pretty decent. So and that's for clarification from post office all the way around.
All the way around.
To Western
65
Sizzling.
to 65. We're gonna
Yeah.
make that big horseshoe and that's a lot, there's a lot of that that's rough, especially that.
Yeah,
turn in,
that gets a lot of heavy traffic. Pettigene, Mallard
A lot
Concrete.
of big trucks in there, so it'll save us a lot of money in the long run, because
Yeah.
that highway in front of Pettigene with the cement trucks and stuff are starting to break down. That in front of Walmart's starting to break down, so.
Yeah, it is. What you did on Yellow Jacket helped, that chip and seal, you know.
Yeah.
That'll be here before you know it.
Kind of save them and seal them up, so.
Yep.
We've got a lot of street cuts, we'll start paying a little attention to them and get some of them dug out. I think they're scattered everywhere.
Here they are.
We'll start patching them up, fixing them as quick as we can, in fact, Smith was working on some of them today.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that on the gravel deal with the county, but that's gonna help us with our water department too.
Yeah.
Getting gravel back in there and not mud.
Yes.
That'll help us a
That
lot.
makes a big difference when I come in to patch them.
Big difference.
I don't have to make 5 or 6 trips,
Yeah.
so.
It's still gonna settle, you know, so you gotta get it. Anything else for Charles on the street? Thank you. Brings us to the Water and Sewer Department report. Will Hinchy's not with us tonight. His grandfather they're calling in the family, so he called me about 3:30 and got the news and headed out. So he wanted me to, he did print out a report for each of y'all. I've got one for each of the, Paula has one for the media. Report to the City Council, October the 10th. Ladies and gentlemen, the chemical cost for the actual chemicals used for September was $8,670.71. The total gallons pumped were 56,573 gallons, total gallons. And treated were 71,022,000. This came out approximately 12 cents for chemicals per 1,000 gallons of treated water. The water loss for the period ended in September 19, 2019 was 30.628%. That's down a whole lot. That's the whole overall figure, the 30.6. Will was telling me Denard's water loss was 33%, 33.4. Burnt Ridge's loss was unable to compute due to that master meter, he said, that was not working. Since then, they've repaired 18 water leaks, and all the way from August the 20th through September the 19th. Pumpage is down on Burnt Ridge. He also said that the master meter has been put in on Burnt Ridge, so that will continue to go down. That means it's going to get better for us. Have any questions, said stop by his office, and he can probably answer most of that a lot better than I can. Overall, it was a good report. So, and like I say, you have his number.
Water loss is really coming down with all
A
the
lot.
leaks they've had up there.
A lot,
fixing the
a
roads.
lot. They're getting better at
It's really
communication. That's
really
gonna,
looking good.
getting a lot better. So he's doing a good job, and we're pleased with that. All I have on the water. Brings us to zoning. Philip Ellis.
Well, it's been a little slower as far as inquiries and stuff on new businesses. I'm, like Charles, glad that the growing season's kind of
coming to the end. It seemed like the last month or so, some of the people that had done a good job about lawns decided to let theirs grow up. Always a new challenge there. Bit of good news are the Catfish Farmers of Arkansas. They, a big sponsor for the Trail Ride Catfish Dinner. They had done 2,500 last year, and my proposal asked for 35. We got word from that they did approve $3,500 for that. So just worked out so good. The director for the Catfish Farmers was up, and it just, he was blown away by the whole event. About the only other thing going on, Park Fest is coming up October 26th. We're trying to have a blues festival. We will have a blues festival along with that, and maybe a ball tournament, trying to draw crowds there. I would encourage y'all to come and support that. We're hoping to see it grow. And
What's the date?
October 26th.
26th. Okay.
Other than that, I reckon things are going pretty good.
No, adding to that, Tim Clark did go up to the floodplain convention. He met his hours. He got all that. So he brought up the problem we're dealing with. I've talked to several people about the maps. We're still using, obviously, the paper maps. We were one of the few cities that were there, the only one that the class Tim was in that still used paper maps, although their priority is based on population. And Tim said, of all the cities he was in there, he was the smallest city, so we're not the only people in the world that use them. Anyway, the process now, they can take our map, and he's going to take it to Little Rock this week. It's going to be scanned. He said it'll be done in about 2 to 3 weeks. I hope so. I'm not going to say when it'll be done, but we're at that process. Then they're going to do an overlay with our map, and we'll have updated maps with an overlay. He said by the end of maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks, I'll just say by the end of the year. So we have a lot more accuracy in our maps. So that's a good thing. Then the final process is to get new digital maps. You really just have to wait for FEMA to do that. We're hoping we can prioritize that, or we can do it ourselves, but it's $2.5 million. So we're waiting on the free ones, but it's going in the right direction, and Tim made the right contacts up there. So the earliest we would get the new digital maps would be July of next year, 2020, which would be great. That's an optimistic projection. So anyway, that was a report for that. That brings us economic development, and I don't see Jessica here. Brings us down to, that's department head reports, old business, there is none. New business, Morgan Park transfer. I'll let Chad Brown speak to that.
Sure. Yeah, Morgan Park is that property between 65B and the Morgan Law Firm. It's actually owned by the Morgans. It's owned by them. We don't own that, although we've used it as a park, or the city's used it as a park. Nathan Morgan contacted Richard, and I've been speaking with him about doing a little property swap. There's a map here, and I don't have copies, sorry, but there's a lot over here that's to the north of the park that he's asking to do a swap, so that he can use that for his parking for his office, and he'll swap and give us the Morgan Park. He just wants to do it as a lease, so we'll lease him that area, and he'll lease us the Morgan Park.
Yeah, we probably need a motion and a second to proceed on that and pass that around. Basically, it's the Morgan Park where we have that little theater that we use. And the land he's talking about is just, if you're on the stage looking toward Eddie Morgan's, it's off to the left by the building where we have the car show. It's that overflow parking and also that grassy spot right up against those buildings. The Morgan Park is 160 by 108. That's including the street that they name every year. That's 17,280 square feet. The park that he's looking at to do a swap on a year-to-year basis is 10,075 square feet. So we're picking up, I guess, 7,000 square feet. Plus, we have use of the park itself. It's if we wanted to put any structure there for Christmas or whatever, we could have access to that. I think it's a good deal. I've talked to most of you about that.
I'd like to make it at our Veterans Park.
Sam, you mentioned that.
We don't own that. And, I think it'd be a good place for our Veterans Park down there.
You mentioned that, and that's not a bad idea. I think, I'd like to have a motion a second, to go ahead and proceed with this. And you can have that for the next meeting if it's ready by then.
I'll second it.
Motion second, any other discussion on that?
So we're talking about a lease, just a swap?
Yeah,
swap?
the lease, and originally I thought he was just talking about trading the land for the land, which I personally would be fine for that, because we utilize that park and it'd be ours. But, I think if it works out for him, it could be kind of like the ball fields, year to year, renew it.
I think it's really more just, we're asking permission before we put a lot of effort into chasing it down, make sure that it's something you would be interested in, so.
Yeah. Then we'll come back with, final permission from the council. So that was that. Anything else on that? Any questions on that? Okay, this brings us to first resolution, interlocal agreement with Van Buren County.
You want to let them vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion second, sorry.
We got the motion and the
Yeah,
second.
I'll ask for a roll call on that.
Barnes,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Lynch,
Hand that to Alex or whoever.
Ford,
Yes.
You got anything under that? Top secret? Yeah. Don't look after the first page, Alex. It's top secret. Yeah. Resolution is our next, resolution for interlocal agreement with Van Buren County and the city, which mainly the water department for a gravel purchase. We met with the county judge and the department heads meet once a month. That was kind of an issue about breaking water lines. Who do you call and what are you putting back in? And Judge James has been saying, well, I can help you with the gravel. Let him and Will talk that out. It seemed to be pretty good trade-off for everyone. I'll let you elaborate on that, or
Yeah, no, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, basically, and I talked to Will about this. He thought this was a fair deal. He gets 2 loads of gravel to use. If he needs additional gravel, he's getting it at half the cost, the market price, and there's no delivery charge. And I asked him, I was like, look, is this going to be a deal where they're going to cause massive damage and we're going to be at a loss? And he's like, no, this is little things that happen throughout the month, and on the whole, this is good for everybody. So
it's good for everybody, and utilize the county's crusher. That's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. This is a resolution designating and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Van Buren County for gravel. I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve this resolution.
Make a motion. I'll second it.
Second, any other discussion or questions on that?
And it's a month to month. I think it was. I think I read a month to month.
Yeah, month to month.
Yeah.
If it, if it gets to be lopsided one way or another, we could always say, look, we're not going to do this anymore. So.
Anything else? I'll ask for a roll call.
Barnes,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Lynch,
Yes.
Pistol,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the final new business resolution for Municipal League Defense Fund for representation. I'll let Chad introduce that and also talk about that and what we're going to do.
Yeah, sure. I think it was the day of our last city council meeting. Chief Willoughby was served with a lawsuit that was filed against. I'll say it was filed against the city. It was actually a little different than that, but basically it was filed against the city. Chief Willoughby's also named. We have 21 days to respond, so our time for response has already passed. So I had to kind of had to contact Municipal League to talk to them about taking care of that, and they have responded for us. But we need permission from you to complete the agreement for representation and then to pay them $3,000, which is a cost deposit. So the hit on the city, I mean, it's not free, obviously, but the hit here is you're going to pay the $3,000 cost deposit. It's going to affect your assessment most likely not this coming year, but next year. And so I kind of asked them to run the numbers to give you an idea. It's probably going to cost you around $8,000 when they reassess. You'll be in a whole higher risk pool, so you'll be paying an extra $8,000. Yeah. What it really is you're going back to the same rate that you paid this past year because you had an active lawsuit.
We were around 15K. We went down to 7,
Yep.
and but maybe if we get through and get it quick.
Maybe. So I
Probably.
I'm not, I'm not unmindful that this costs money and it's a real number. It means something to you. So I kind of I took a look at it, ran it up the flagpole with a couple other colleagues. I mean, the general consensus here is that it's still a good deal to do this. Even if it's $11,000, when you count the cost deposit plus the assessment, it's probably half to a third of the cost of what you'd be paying to have a private counsel actually kind of represent you and handle it for you. So I still think there's cost benefit to it. There might be some cases where we can get out of and not have to get the municipal league involved, and if that ever comes up, I'm gonna do what I can to take care of that.
Right.
But in this case, I think, in my opinion, you need to get them involved.
This is one too. We have a legal and professional in our budget for that. We put $3,000 back in this. We have used $300 out of it, so we'll be $300 short. We can find that. Like I said, he talked to other attorneys, and this is one of the cases that a big firm's taking it, and it would probably be to our advantage to do that. And I feel confident we will win, but.
And just for the record, I mean, I do not believe the city did anything wrong and is liable whatsoever. I really don't think the county is either. This is just something that happens and it's got to be dealt with, so.
Yeah, it's, anyway, the resolution is a resolution to approve the appointment of the Municipal League Defense Program to represent the city in pending litigation, authorize the mayor to pay the cost deposit required for the representation by the program. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call on that.
Barnes,
Yes.
I'll sign this
Hastings?
tonight in blue. I need
Lynch?
to.
Yes.
Or you may have to.
Pistol?
I haven't signed, I may have signed it. Okay, thank y'all. That brings us down to public comments. Does anybody want to make any? Also brings us to mayor's comments. I have just a few things. October the 22nd will be our day. We had talked about maybe on the 14th, but starting around the week of the 22nd to the 25th, I talked to Charles about that. I'd like to start talking to the department heads about looking at their budget. So each of you start looking into it. John, if it's maintenance, or Charles, if it's computer or stoplight, you're aware of your budgets. So look at that and see where they're at. Like to, by the end of that October, and then we go into November, and everybody have a pretty good idea, and we maybe can get our budget finalized by the end of November, hopefully. So that's the dates on that, starting the week of the 22nd, department heads. Second thing, the money, the chuck wagon races that was mentioned, that's going to be distributed start Monday, and we broke that up. $3,100 was given by the folks that came and ate, and that's amazing. That's very helpful to our senior citizen. $1,000 is going to the senior citizen here in Clinton. They also got the extra fish that we had. I appreciate Mr. Ellis working hard and getting another $1,000 worth of fish. That's a good thing. $800 will go to Scotland Senior Citizen Center, and $800 will go to the Scotland Community Club. That's $1,600. That's about an even trade-off with the fish and everything for Clinton, because Scotland's a big part of that too. James Burns and Doyle Scroggins. So $500 will go to Shirley. So that's how we're going to break that up. That's just generosity from folks that come and stay here, and we appreciate that. Third thing is the square dancing's going on tomorrow night over here at the Van Buren County Fairgrounds, starting around 7 o'clock, and they're drifting in town. They're filling up our hotels. So if you want to see some good dancing, go over there. Charles, we may need you to call I volunteered you for that. That's 7 o'clock tomorrow. Her name is Teresa Hawley that's over that. I will give the number to Alex and the media to contact her. It'd be a good story to promote. They're coming in from all around the state and beyond other states. So they're pretty serious about their dancing. We're grateful for that. Finally, I want to remind you of Tony Lovell's funeral service there tomorrow. Visitation will be from 10 to 11 here at Roller McNutt. And 11 o'clock will be the services for Tony, who was with the street department many years, worked side by side with Charles and all of you, everybody. Tony was a very, very hard worker, very loyal, very dedicated worker, and Clinton was proud to have him. We're going to miss him greatly. Had a lot of good things said about him, from Mayor Rory, Dwight Wilson, and Charles, and everybody else. So we're going to shut down City Hall, I know, around 10:30, 10:45. and go to the visitation, end up in the funeral, and I think the water department may do the same thing. If you have a chance to attend that service, I would encourage you to do that. He left a lot of kids behind, some of them are pretty young, and we're gonna miss him greatly. So remember that family at this time. That's about all I have. I wanna thank you for being here, and if nothing further, I entertain a motion, a second to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second. All in favor? Say aye, we stand adjourned.